Julie here with Sirius Talisman. This is Mars hour and the Saturn night. Ascendant is around Spica, midheaven around 28 degree Cancer, Moon 7 degrees Aquarius, Sol 4 degrees Sagittarius, and Mars 15 degrees Sagittarius. Mercury has left the 22nd degree, and I just learned that for first in 1200 years, this film 5 hours ago, an Ethiopian volcano erupted. 1200,000 years. That immediately sends me to Sedna cycles. And so I have to check with you chart of Ethiopia. And I was midway into energy reading regarding Egypt. By the way, shout out to Light. Light, what you saw about, and I'm saying it publicly because it's relevant to everyone. Light began to see a second wave of people who are awakening. Astrologically speaking, she began to see it with the military. Astrologically speaking, Neptune will ingress into Aries, which is a sign of the military, a sign of war, weapon industry, the Schindlers. I've been seeing Schindler for at least 2-3 years, okay? And Schindler owned a weapon company that worked with the Nazis. There's the story where he saved many Jews. Again, I'm not too acquainted with the Schindler story. There's always a lot of social engineering. So I would need to look at it more thoroughly. I would need to look at the chart of Schindler, of course. But yes, this is this channeling coincidences with me with the Neptune into the sign of military. And there's going to be Uranus is going to be in Gemini, which is civil war vibes. And this is the civil war vibes in both the intelligence. It's going to sextile Neptune, which is intelligence, global intelligence, and within particularly military alliance of NATO and the relevant civil wars. Okay, so Israel has civil war o'clock, United States, what country else? I saw recently spoke about another country. So this is what I see as an astrologer. And yes, the first wave, I think, was with Neptune into Pisces. People talk about it as New Earth. 2012, there was a big move of Neptune into Pisces, and that created a lot of people within the medical field. My thesis proposal was written within the scope of Neptune in Pisces as an academic. And I moved into astrology as well. And the second wave is definitely Neptune into Aries, as I see it. Could be wrong, of course, but from perspective of astrology, tropical astrology, I see it as Neptune in Aries. And that's going to be military people. Indeed, some military people will. And indeed, I have to admit, very resonating. I talked about somebody coming in my dream and telling me that they're shielding from the sexual violence to do with the astral attacks. So this is something that is very relevant, very important, and indeed there were. It was surrounded by a lot of attempts, I guess, for me to not, or for that energy to not come forward through to me more. Or okay, and again, I have no idea who or what, but this is the message I received. So, chart of Ethiopia. That sends me again all the way back to Sedna cycle. This chart is from, and of course it's not an indigenous chart, it's a tropical chart, which could be associated. I don't know how decolonized that chart is. Is it marking of decolonization? Is it not? Then I know not too much about Ethiopia at all. And this is the foundation in Addis Ababa. September 12, 1974. So fairly recent. Ascendant Libra, Uranus Spica. And very exciting to see Uranus Spica. I know that the Ethiopians maintain the Book of Enoch. And the Book of Enoch is about the cloning of people that were cloned to be slaves. And then the cloning was done by women. But here is, I'm half Dutch, and by us we have Dutch East India and the clones of Dutch East India. So Trudy Verstegen, who was a parliament member in Netherlands, exposes the cloning project, and the women that the what is Anunnakis or whatnot were cloning with, they were not consenting. In fact, it was ritual abuse, and that is as far as it's by us by Dutch East India, and clones still are done in a way that is non-consensual, not consensual. Okay, it's rapey. And what I read from Book of Enoch is that there was lust magic placed on the women, but the cloning project itself is very violent, and that was attempt to colonize humanity or build slaves, and this story is not existing in the monotheistic Bible. It was hidden, and the Ethiopians kept the Book of Enoch. So Uranus Spica can be something revolutionary about fairness in trade and the justice system. Now, since a lot of the justice system and light, the androgynous energy can be cloned. Okay, so particularly in the military. Okay, so it can be simply a person who is of androgynous, or but it looks like it is a person that was cloned, and the way they do the cloning is adding another X chromosome. So this is the XXX, and it's called hermaphrodite. It's basically, I know this from Trudy Verstegen. The problem is that they do that with a lot of violence and to enslave the people, because they use the violence to enslave the identity. And yes, I definitely have this eureka thanks to light that is, by the way, coming from Ethiopia, that the second wave is of military, but it's going to be the wave of those androgynous energies, and basically of the people that were cloned, that are going to begin to have this kind of, people call it awakening, or re-access the thread of their own soul, basically healing from that abuse. And this says, again, Aries is that is astrologically associated with the cloning project in our times, in modern times, has been in Aries since 1920s, since around the Depression, and now towards the 50s, she's going through Andromeda constellation, which is the kidnapped and the returning of the kidnapped, as well as the story of Andromeda, which was supposed to be sacrificed but was saved, and has to do with the abolishing of human sacrifice. And this is where it's also re-inclusivity, peace between lovers, and can be peace. So there is the inclusivity of the people that were cloned, and it has a lot to do with LGBTQ indeed, and androgynous energy, because some because of the ritual, and some because of the breeding, okay, the added chromosome, and that can be both male and female physiology in one body. By the way, there are anomalies to the genitals that happened because of inbreeding, and I believe there would be also, I remember when Uranus went to Taurus, there was a lovely campaign about the female genitals but there's all types of vaginas, and people should not make surgeries to change and so on and so forth. And there is also that thing around the sexual organs of cloned people, and that points us to energy transmutation as well, and other ways of enjoying even sexuality and sexual energy with will and consent. Yes, even if the physical sometimes is because of these anomalies different. So I definitely see that second wave as the military, and that's what it correlates with. And then right after watching light, I saw there was an eruption of volcano in Ethiopia that hasn't been for 1,200,000 years, and I'm like, this is Sedna. So now I'm trying to see, and now this can go all the way to Enoki and whatnot. Sedna right now is transiting ninth house of Ethiopia, and this indeed volcanic eruption sent residues that were all the way to Yemen and interrupted the field. And I also associated with the coming eclipses all the way to 2027 that will be in Africa. The role of Ethiopia in awakening the people. I know nothing. The only thing I know from Ethiopia, other than the Book of Enoch, that they have like hidden religion, and in Israel sometimes they would have this painting in the forehead. It's like secret, and that's it. In Israel, we had the case of Haimnut Kasau that was kidnapped, and she was kidnapped from the emergency center in Israel. I know that there was castration of women using psychiatric drugs in Ethiopia, in Israel, but of Ethiopian women. Um, and I know it from a Palestinian man that exposed Israel during the war. And in the case of Hamlet, she was going to a place. There's buildings. It's called Merkaz Klita, where the newcomers come from the diaspora. So it's very interesting because diaspora is also for Africans that are going. It's a word that Israel is borrowed from Africa, and um, and they have this weird treatment to Ethiopian because Ethiopians, they bring the Book of Enoch, which would completely revolutionize any religion. And there was an attempt to castrate that. There was an attempt to silence that. Try to claim that the Ethiopians are not Jews, yes Jews, and so on and so forth. But they bring the origin of. It's like Chabash is the origin, and it's kind of like people may not like it, but this is where we have to confront our origins, and we actually have to know our origins to see if there's refinement needed or reform. But we actually need to know what is the origin. In that case of Hamlet Kasau, she was kidnapped from this center, and she was seen entering the center, but all the children, people come, and it is of kind of like the welfare, and never seen. So either there's a tunnel there, either there's a secret room there, which would open a can of worms. And only now I have this eureka, which is like, yes, there's something to do spiritually with the role of Ethiopian people to awaken the people, because that could be CIA tunnels right underneath that center, and the Ethiopian more susceptible because they were subjected to castration by the psychiatry. And that exposes not just Israel, but the entire New Egypt thing that they're doing. So this Uranus Spica of how when that is triggered, there's a revolution, and that revolution is liberation regarding justice system. And here's where justice system and trade system also have these androgynous energies. I do believe people and like light will be more prominent at this time because this is gnosis that is missing, okay, in Western esoteric traditions, and is coming from the place that is now associated with the volcanic eruption, and this is to do with Sedna. Now, Sedna story, as I know it, and Uranus going over Sedna and around Sedna, will give us way more information, was the people, as the people tell the story of Sedna, particularly the women. And this is where Sedna was basically trafficked by her dad, or her soul essence was sold, very likely even to that cloning, because she was sold to trafficking by her dad for him to gain power, or demonic power. And then this curse brought that Sedna didn't manage to escape. Her fingers were cut off. She fell into the ocean. There are Ethiopian stories, cultural stories that correlate with that. It would be fascinating to hear. And this is an Inuit story. She fell into the ocean and became goddess of the underworld. And then the Inuit are very much dependent on, they live in the Arctic, so they're very much dependent on the fish and the marine life. And she became goddess of marine life and the underworld. And to appease Sedna, one had to comb her hair, or the shaman had to comb her hair ritualistically, in a touch that is so nourishing, so loving, so honoring, basically, of sexual sovereignty, that she would accept this touch. Otherwise, there would be no food. And I don't know if there is an equivalent in other cultures. For me, I have Rahu very much associated with the Arctic, and I'm coming to my Rahu maturation. Gemini is where my Rahu is at. So I know now they're building something like concentration camps. I saw in Denmark that they deal with immigration by building kind of like enclosed concentration camps. That draws a lot of criticism. It can be that by 2030 these camps are abolished. Okay, because they're built like so it's basically digital prisons in the Arctic being abolished. So I was like, my God. Okay, so that is interesting. And now I don't have special lunar node points on Ethiopia, so I would need a complementary of people like Light to complement what I see. I can just look astrologically. Jupiter 12 degrees Pisces. We had the Rahu on this Jupiter in the last lunar and solar eclipses in Pisces. So this is very prominent. Pluto 6 degrees Libra. Mercury 9 degrees Libra. Pluto is next to Zendaya. And Pluto can't have to do with volcanic eruption, but Libra is air sign. Sidereally, it would be mutable earth sign. Pluto in Aquarius would be 5th house for Ethiopia. This could be, for example, this is both 5th house of Israel and Ethiopia. And right now, the case of Haimnut Kasau is becoming viral. Okay, a lot of people are searching for her now after a year and a half. And she became like a symbol. And it's also unifying the Ethiopian community in Israel looking for Haimnut Kasau, which will expose shit ton of stuff, I guess, in both Israel and probably also Ethiopia. Midheaven 30, Midheaven Sirius. Midheaven Sirius. Have my moon there. And Trudy Verstegen has, according to her Facebook, her Mercury there. Saturn 16 degrees Cancer. Moon, where Jupiter is now. The people. Jupiter is on the people of Ethiopia. And the moon in Capricorn, which is the 4th house of Ethiopia. No, the moon in Aquarius is the 5th house. Neptune, Sagittarius, Rahu in 14 degrees Sagittarius. which means Ketu in Gemini. Uranus would be conjoined in Sedna, and Uranus would be conjoined in Sedna from the land, and this is 8th house. Volcanoes, okay. Volcanoes could be seen in the 8th house because it can be associated with, what is a volcano? Okay, it's the hidden wealth. It's the minerals pop into the land. Okay, volcanic eruption basically drives the minerals from the core of the earth with the rocks up, and actually the rocks that harden, obsidians, for example, form in lava that hardens quickly. Snowflake obsidian, and I gave snowflake obsidian to a person today, together with an emerald, raw emerald, non. Okay. I don't carry a diamond store with me. To a person today on the train, and snowflake obsidian is the lava that hardens more slowly. So we're gonna have new formation of obsidian and maybe of snowflake obsidian around Ethiopia. Both of them are very grounding. And of course, lava stones, right? The lava is a lot of rocks and minerals that were formed today, that were brought into the surface, and are going to be very useful. And it would be interesting what would be the energy of these stones. I know that the honey that's coming from Ethiopia is one of the best honeys. I need to try it. But this is going. We will see what energy do these stones have, because they're going to be the stones that arise in a certain location are usually very helpful to curate and assist the energy of the people in that location. So, and this is a volcanic eruption. Then, and I think that this is the Taurus 29 degrees in the 8th house, which is volcanic eruption that brings minerals, and this is Sedna. Now, those minerals are used also to ground people from panic attack. Now, this sparks a Sedna story in the 9th house of Ethiopia, which sends us to, unfortunately, Mercury rules children. Was Haimut Kasau used, unfortunately, in child trafficking? Is something that I bring to the air, okay? Because we have famine, and I don't know if there's famine in Africa. In Israel, they talked about famine, although I see a lot of rain, a shit ton of rain. But this is indeed there were not harvest of the olive, for example, enough to make oil in northern Israel, and I think that it would shed light on the trafficking of children, that global child traffic trade. And I think that now, as the case of Heimnut is popping up, and I tend to the missing people and so on, water expense upon cooling. I saw there's also somebody in my family that went missing with a journalist, and what I saw had to do maybe with human sacrifice. And the ruler of the of the act was in the 1st house, which is the house of the person that asks the question. So that was also that they wanted to sacrifice me, which I know is it took me several years to understand that, but it can be that she was murdered or sacrificed. She went missing with a journalist to Germany. That is, I was told not to look at the case. But yes, I'm not gonna say the name now, because it later is my family. So and I don't know where did that come from. Is it coming from lineage? It was on my Mars, so But the case of Hamlet Kosau is exposing internationally child trafficking scandal. Okay, international child trafficking scandal. Child kidnap, child trafficking scandal. And we're gonna see it. I would say work with Snowflake Obsidian, but Snowflake Obsidian particularly. Maybe Lava Stone. Um, and let me take a look at the countries where the eruption hit. So this was sending volcanic dust, cloud drifting across Red Sea, the Nile. Okay, so to get to the Red Sea, they have to go to the Nile. Plums have already reached plums, whatever. Yemen, Oman. Yemen. In Israel, there was a story of the kidnapping of the children of Yemen. But all these stories originate also in the origin country. Like, why would women even run away from Yemen to Israel? Okay, it was Oman, northern Pakistan, India, where they caused flight to be cancelled. So we're talking about the network goes through from around Ethiopia to through the Red Sea, all the way to the Middle East. So Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, can be parts of Iran, and all the way to Yemen, Oman, northern Pakistan, and India. It's exactly where they want to build a road that goes through all the way, even to China. Falcon, you want to build infrastructure, of course things are going to pop up from even 1200 years ago. And the reason they want to build it there, because the soil is going to be more fertile there. It's going to be more, the fertility of the earth is moving towards that area. It's called Highly Gooby Volcano. And again, it awakens Sedna's story. The obvious, spiritual, the obvious prophecy, okay, abolish child trafficking of these regions so that they would not be famine. Because this region, oh my god, people will not like to hear what I have to say. The region, the ground has decided the region is going to be fertile. The people that traffic children will not be in that region. Okay? Take from that what you want. Nobody has to die, but take from that what you want. Now, it's not my region of prophecy, so to speak, because even though I'm situated in that region, my north node pertains to South America and north and the Arctic. But what I see on a global scale is very relevant, and I see that this area is going to be fertile. All of it now looks like desert upon desert upon desert. It's going to be very fertile area, and there's going to be purgatory of those who traffic children. So now it's a Sedna story to do with Ethiopia. That's what erupts, but it goes all the way to India. From Bayas, I'm half Dutch, so that was India was Dutch East India. That went to Indonesia and the Surinams. The British that went to India and colonized India. The Israelis that trafficked children of Yemen, that escaped Yemen to Israel, basically. Oman, I don't know. Pakistan, I don't know. So all the way to this region. 1200 years is screaming Sedna. Now, I don't know anything of the local spiritual stories and so on and so forth. So I would need people that come from these areas um, uh, to um, to give their own readings, and people that have either come from these areas or have their north node on these areas, okay, where the soul is going, or have their Ketu on these areas. I just figured Rahu is about materializing something. Materializing something. I don't know. Yeah, and it's it's an accidental commercial of BioMind. I don't know. I tried them for a month. They're very tasty. I don't know if they improve or not, but they don't. It just stood there. Um, Probiotic gum. Mars for Ethiopia is 29 degrees Virgo. We had the eclipses, the Genghis Khan eclipses. But really, I think it is Lilith close to Fomalhaut. But this is Western esoterics with maybe a little bit of Sufi esoterics. I know nothing about um, what Ethiopians would have to say, or what the people that are affected, or the people that have their Rahu or Ketu in the geographical regions, okay, in astrocartography, in those areas, they could have premonitions, prophecies, um, because either the soul is going there, Rahu, or the soul has come from there, Ketu. Um, so this is these are the people that would have more detailed information, and it can be that from them I received that the area is going to be fertile, but the volcano is sending me to send a story. It's like the earth is angry because of child trafficking, trade that happens underneath the ground in affected areas, so it blocks the air travel and the transportation of goods, which is also food, and causes famine. But this is from my esoteric perspective, and and again, I don't know by whom is the trafficking. Okay, that it happens in Ethiopia doesn't mean that the trafficking is by Ethiopia. I want to emphasize that because okay, because I really don't know. And Sedna is also to do with minerals, and the minerals that come with volcanic eruption are the obsidians that are used to cleanse, purify, ground, and transmute energy. And I recently, before this volcanic eruption, I got a calling to work with snowflake obsidian, and today I give charity of snowflake obsidian emerald. A person that turned to me in the train and asked me if I'm energy healer. Right before that, I met a woman that presented herself as energy healer. So maybe I had her energy, and he thought that I'm energy healer. And I said, no, I'm astrologer, but I can give you Buddhist grounding energies for the meanwhile. So that will be associated with Saturn. Saturn is now in Pisces. With Neptune. The Saturn, Ethiopia, same as Israel. Saturn Neptune is going to happen on the world degree in the 7th house of Ethiopia. Granted that Ethiopia is not going to be an empire, because it can be. I don't know, like anything can be. That means invasion to Ethiopia. For Israel, probably that's the missiles from Iran that we saw last time. Okay, and they tended to pinpoint new real estate or historical army. They got all the way to the in front of us. Really, there is the big thing of the military, the Kiryat, whatnot, and they sent a missile there. So it didn't really cause like that much harm, but it was very exciting. It was like, yeah, they never shoot there. It's like the center of everything. It didn't really actually cause harm, but it was like it's 2 meters from Israeli building, which is like kind of like the World Trade Center of Israel. um, so yeah, it was 2 meters from Israeli building, but this is something that's predicted for the Saturn Neptune on the world degree, an explosion of military infrastructure. Or new infrastructure and hospitals. Red Cross, it's this kind of Salvation Army. It's boom. Um, it is on the world degree, and I'm thinking, what's global military army hospitals Red Cross? By the way, I'm thankful to the Red Cross for the shoes and clothes that I got when I needed a shelter. Probably, I don't know if the cost also the reason that I needed it. But I'm thankful for the shoes and clothes that I had with me. And it was funny because I think the only item that I stole except for food was gloves. There was nothing. The gloves were not. And yes, because there were gloves not enough form, so to not have my fingers. That was the only item of clothing I needed there, and that I needed to steal. Was from a store in North Amsterdam. The village is there next to North Amsterdam. Very beautiful place. By the cars that were parking, I guess that they can afford the loss of a car. That very beautiful region. So this is what I have to say and that is again something that is pinpointing Sedna in the ninth house, and it's ruled by Sedna is ruled by Mercury now. So Mercury is in 22, was in 22 degrees of Scorpio at the hour of the eruption, and met with Venus even. Could be that it met even with Venus. So, like I said, sexual sovereignty, trafficking, particularly, and it was not a big thing trafficking. It was trafficking to take the life energy from the children. It was ritual trafficking. I know all trafficking is for this purpose, but people that don't live and read the the story, then basically they wouldn't connect the dots. So this is about a ritual of harvesting life energy from these children, and that could be directly connected to both Heimlich Sau's case, and that exposes phenomena. And I think Heimlich Sau is related to the Saturn Neptune also in Ethiopia, both in Israel and Ethiopia, because it is a mythical case, and there was a major delay in the searches. Only now, after a year and a half, there were searches. So this major delay, and it's around the Sigad, which is, I don't know what is the Sigad. It's an Ethiopian tradition, I think, type of holiday. And the family honored the Sigad, Beta Israel community. It is also immunoglobulin selective lack of. I think those two are related, because Neptune is also the lack of missing, and Mars is blood. And this is the harming to the immune system. And Sigad is also in intelligence. Another Neptune is a signal to identify, collect information, which is exactly why Hamnut was kidnapped. It didn't mean to solve that case. It just happened. Okay, they want the bloodline. Ethiopian people carry a certain signal that they use to collect information, but they want to the epigenetics to do the epigenetics. Unfortunately, they try to do the epigenetics, not the Ethiopian, but those that kidnap the people try to do the epigenetics. I'm sorry, they do. If this happened, they rape children to make them spies, child spies, and they use them like what Annika Lucas talks about. And this particular blood, and this is associated with this lack of immunoglobulin. So let's see. Okay, so let's see the medical ailment associated with this practice. Okay, the practice of trafficking children. The mouth, breathing, and digestion. Pisces, digestion is Virgo. Breathing is Pisces. This is the eclipse. This is also why only now they look for Heimnut. It's more sensitive to viral infections, autoimmune, and allergies. And for this intelligence, meaning it's used by the five eyes: Australia, Canada, New York. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Britain, and US, to identify one line of intelligence that is located in a basis or a ship. Ship is also Pisces. And signet, it uses to decipher basically the intelligence, the signals of intelligence. There is and it's also name of Menfit Hill in Britain, USD 1000, collecting intelligence, collecting information. The holistic meaning of names is going to be particularly important with Neptune in Aries. Now back to the holiday, Sigad. It's Ethiopian holiday of the Beta Israel community, celebrated 29th of the Hebrew month of Mar Cheshvan. Since 2008, it has been Israeli holiday. 2008, Pluto ingressed into Capricorn. Sigad for prostration, to prostrate, to worship. The Semitic root, masjid, which may be related to both synagogue but also mosque. Yes. And that's the next line. To worship, significance. King Caleb, son of King Caleb. When the war between Jews and Christians ended, and both communities separated from each other, it was a divorce. Another traces it has in the 15th century. This was 6th century of one tradition. As a result of persecution by Christian emperors. On other tradition, it states that the Jews in Persia, Iran, following the destruction of the first temple, would climb to a mountain, face Jerusalem. I'm getting that there are Inuit signification to this. If there are Inuit people that when I talk about Ethiopia, I have something to add, that would be interesting. First temple would be a mountain, face Jerusalem. Inuit people may have felt the eruption. Particularly people who live like in places like Iceland, but in Greenland, people in Greenland that felt the eruption both in Iceland and here. I don't know. Face Jerusalem to pray to be allowed back. The first mention of Sigad is from the 15th century. So destruction of the first temple. Symbolizes acceptance of Torah. The Kahanat, the Kohanim, okay, the priests, also maintain tradition of the holiday arising as a result of persecution by Christian kings, during which the Kahanat retreated into the wilderness to appeal to God for mercy. Additionally, they sought to unify Beta Israel and prevent them from abandoning the Haymanut, laws and tradition, under persecution. So they looked towards the book of Nehemiah, taking inspiration from Ezra's presentation of the book of the law of Moses before assembly of Israel after it had been lost during the Babylonian exile. Observance outside of Israel is also in New York celebrated. Prevention of hate crimes. Non-profit Bechol Lashon, which highlights racial and ethnic diversity within Jewry. This is very interesting because two things I got regarding my fourth house that has to do with Gemini and now Sedna. The first talisman that I bought was don't stay in your lane, because and it was a sphere and sundry talisman of Gemini, and particularly the Abre Camino. They used the herb Abre Camino, which is door opening, and it was very exciting because Abre Camino is an indigenous plant, and the company is American. So non-indigenous American. So This is where, and the second, when I looked at exactly where my Rahu is astrocartographically, which is around Tromsø in Norway, a bit south, I think, to the sea. And the first thing I heard was, stay in your lane. It's like, wait a second. but this is my lane. This is where Rahu here. This is where I'm meant to materialize something to do with my home. Which is very weird because my soul never been there before and is destined to go or to and Rahu is materialization. So this is something that just comes as a notion, because one would expect that I come from certain origins, then I would have certain prophecies or whatnot. But Rahu is a lot to do, because the ruler of Rahu is ruled by that 22 Mars, which is in the 9th house, which leads back to the 9th house that rules over my Jupiter, that rules my Ketu. And this is why I receive things from, let's say, for the Arctic, that are sometimes more relevant than my origins. Not because I forget my origins, but because it all comes together. It all connects together. And astrocartography came to me with the spiritual teaching, because Uranus is by Jupiter, and with so many times I was like, astrocartography. I was looking around, but I said, what, I need to travel for that. And then I did the study live, and I was like, oh my god, I actually have things to say. So yeah. And with Ethiopia, we have a revolution around the origins, because they have the Book of Enoch. So there's a whole lot of, the West is trying to interpret, and the Jews will try to interpret it. But what about, now here's the thing, it's going to be from the people that have their Ketus and Rahus in that area. I will do one more study live and see if I have Ketu, if I have access to where Ketu is astrocartographically by my chart. So let's go to astrocartography. And by the way, this is also how I saw that my father that appears is from Netherlands. When it comes to the Rahu, it can be that the Ketu would be different view, but that was interesting. And this is not the father by blood, and those things matter a lot to where we're going. Because the cloning project basically harmed the blood. Let's see. That would be Rahu, which is that point around Tromsø. Yeah, the Rahu parents, and they meet in the ocean. So, but this is really the big juncture is here. It's like into the sea. Because Svalbard is over here, I think. It's not Svalbard. So this is northeast Norway. But closer to the sea. And where do I see Ketu? So let's see all planets. All planets. And do I see Ketu? I see planets. How do I see Ketu line? I see lunar nodes only gives me Rahu. Maybe because it's the Rahu Ketu? I don't know. But this is Rahu. So I don't know. That's Rahu. But the juncture of the parents with Rahu and Rahu, it would be up north. Which means that this is where geographically the soul is going to materialize. Which by the way can happen by exile. Yes, I would have ascendant Gemini over there. Ascendant Sagittarius over there. Which is, by the way, where my Ketu is and my Uranus. So this is very interesting. It can be that I will die there, or just I will go there, or towards death, but it's something that's very materializing. The land. Why am I saying that? Because people that have Rahu in more to the region of I wanted to check if the Ketu is coming from around the Middle East or something, but the people that have their points around this area, they will get premonition. So I get it through like around about like through the Arctic and then down south, or Sedna and then down south, or like, oh, I can see the Sedna story playing out in Ethiopia. I can see the Sedna story playing out behind Kasau. But the people that have Rahu in this area, okay, in Ethiopia, in all the way to Yemen, the Middle East, and so on, they will have premonitions regarding this area of that materialize. Okay, so they will have the perspective that that I don't have, because Rahu is where the soul hasn't been yet, and it is the new. Okay, premonition to the future. Okay, that is where the soul hasn't been yet, and premonition to the future. So this is where the people that would have Rahu on the astrocartography lines of this area, they would be able to give better premonitions than me regarding to how these things materialize.